You're not tired because you've done too much. You're tired because you're carrying what was never yours to hold. The noise, the opinions, the unpredictable storms, they drain you. That scattered feeling, it comes from chasing control over things beyond your reach. But peace isn't found out there. It's found within. The moment you shift your focus to what you can command, everything changes and your power quietly begins to rise. In a few moments, you'll understand why your peace, power, and progress depend on focusing only on what you can control. Control begins with awareness. You live every day surrounded by forces you cannot command, weather, traffic, the moods of others. But there's one kingdom that belongs to you alone, your mind. And if you do not rule it, someone or something else will. The man who drifts through life blaming others for his misfortunes, he has not yet discovered his power. But the man who stops, looks inward and declares, "This is mine to control," begins to write his own destiny. Control doesn't begin in the hands. It begins in the mind, with awareness. You may say, but what if the world around me is unfair? Yes, it may be. But what does that change about your next move? Your breath, your posture, your choice to rise? Those are yours. Do not surrender what belongs to you. You must know this. A disciplined mind is a liberated man. When you know what's within your power, you stop chasing shadows and start shaping outcomes. Your awareness is the starting line of all self-mastery. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and spend 10 minutes in stillness. No noise, no outside voices, just you and your thoughts. You ask, what can I truly control today? The answers come. My effort, my reactions, my words, my choices. And just like that, your compass sharpens. So ask yourself, have you been living by reaction or direction? Are you being moved like a leaf in the wind, or have you planted yourself like an oak in the earth? A man who knows what he controls walks differently. He speaks with calm certainty. He works without distraction, because his power doesn't come from chance, it comes from conscious command. You must become that man. You own your attitude. There is a power that no man can steal from you, no failure can take, and no misfortune can break. It is your attitude, your perspective, your inner tone. And the moment you realize it's yours, you unlock a strength greater than circumstances. The masses walk around defeated, not because they've lost, but because they've allowed their attitude to lose shape. They wait for things to change so they can feel better. But the wise man, he chooses to feel better so things begin to change. You might say, but how can I control my attitude when I feel overwhelmed? And I ask you, when has overwhelm ever solved itself? Your attitude is the bridge between where you are and where you wish to go. Burn that bridge with negativity and you stand stranded. To control your attitude, begin each day with a declaration. Today I respond with purpose. I greet challenge with poise. I protect my peace. This is not empty talk. It is a contract with yourself. And like any agreement, it must be honored with action. Let's say you walk into a room and others are complaining, bitter, hopeless. Do you join them or lift the tone? Your attitude is contagious. And if you wield it with intention, you become the thermostat, not the thermometer. So ask yourself, have you been adjusting to the world or adjusting the world around you? Every man faces adversity, but not every man walks through it with dignity. That difference lies in the choice of attitude. Carry yours like armor. Master your morning, command your day. Every day, the world begins again, and the way you step into it decides everything. The man who controls his morning doesn't need to chase success, it begins to chase him. But what do most do? They rise late, they wander into the day with no command, no clarity, no center. They hand their power to chance and wonder why the day defeats them. You, however, must be different. When the sun is low and the world is quiet, you have the greatest opportunity to shape your spirit. In those early hours, you decide what kind of man walks into the world, a drifter or a force. Start simple, rise with discipline, sit with silence, think with direction, speak to yourself with strength. These small victories are not small at all. They are the bricks that build an unshakable mind. Picture this. You rise while the world sleeps. You stretch. You think. You write your goals. You prepare your clothes. You review your commitments. You do not race. You align. And when the day begins, you are not surprised. You are prepared. Now ask yourself, how often have you handed your day to chance? What if you reclaimed the first hour as your own? What would shift in your confidence, your pace, your presence? The men who command great fortunes often began by commanding their mornings. The man who wins is not necessarily the fastest, but the one who prepares with the most consistency. The morning is your throne. Sit on it with intention. Respond, don't react. It is not what happens to you, but how you answer it that defines the outcome. And most men live on strings, pulled by every external event, every comment, every delay. That is not control. That is captivity. There's a difference between reaction and response. Reaction is fast, emotional, often regretted. Response is deliberate, calm, controlled. The man who reacts is ruled. The man who responds is the ruler. You may say, but sometimes I can't help it, and that is where you must grow. You can help it, but only if you train your mind before the storm arrives. Emotional discipline is not born in the moment. It is forged in the morning, sharpened by stillness and tempered by reflection. You are not a puppet. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are a thinking, choosing being. And every moment you pause and ask, is this worthy of my energy? You regain your power. Imagine you're insulted. A man speaks harshly. Your pride flares. But instead of striking back, you smile, you measure, you respond with wisdom. Who then is in control? You are. And you win, not by overpowering, but by mastering yourself. So ask, do you lead your emotions or follow them? Do you give power to every irritation or choose where your attention goes? To respond instead of react is to rise above the noise. It is to carry yourself like a man of thought, not impulse. And in that space between stimulus and response, there lies your greatness. Focus on effort, not outcome. Every man wants results, wealth to command freedom, achievement to stand tall, recognition to be seen and remembered. But what most men chase is the fruit, forgetting that fruit does not grow without roots. The applause, the riches, the victories, they are all outcomes. The real work lies beneath the surface, hidden from sight, where effort is planted and watered day by day, season after season. You do not control the fruit, you control the soil, the seed, the hand that works the ground. Many abandon their dreams too early, mistaking silence for failure and delay for denial. They look for instant proof that their work matters, and when the proof doesn't come quickly, they panic. They quit, but they forget. You cannot force a tree to bloom on your schedule. You cannot bully nature, but you can show up daily to tend to the process. You can till the ground again and again, knowing that your power lies not in the harvest, but in your commitment to plant. And then you ask, but what if I fail? But failure is not defined by results. Failure is defined by your response to resistance. If you gave all that you had, your focus, your energy, your consistency, then you did not fail. You endured the drought. You weathered the storm. Perhaps what you call failure is just success still under construction. That's why you must fall in love with effort, not as a means to an end, but as a way of life. Discipline must be built around the doing, not the reward. The man who trains when no one watches, the writer who writes though unread, the craftsman who perfects his trade in silence. These are the builders of greatness. They don't wait for praise. They become the kind of men who don't need it, because effort sharpens them, shapes them, prepares them for the moment the world finally takes notice. But ask yourself honestly, have you been playing to win or playing to be seen winning? Have you measured your worth by results instead of repetitions? If so, return to the beginning, back to the grind, back to the act of giving your best, even when no reward shows up. Don't wait to be validated. Don't wait for numbers, trophies, or claps. Let effort itself validate you. When you do that, when you work as if the outcome is none of your concern, you become dangerous, untouchable, consistent through every season. The world eventually bends to those who outlast its silence. So rise, work, repeat. Focus on what you do, not what it gives you. That is the path. That is the way. And in time, the fruit will follow. Direct your thoughts or be directed by them. You think thousands of thoughts each day, flickers of feeling, bursts of memory, waves of fear, sparks of ambition. But pause and ask yourself, how many of those thoughts do you actually choose? How many are truly yours, born from clarity and purpose? And how many simply arrive, like strangers walking through the doors of your mind, uninvited, unexamined, untrained? Most men live under the illusion that they are thinking, when in reality they are simply receiving, passive to the mental chatter that rules their emotions, moods, and decisions. A man who does not master his thinking becomes a leaf in the wind, tossed from strength to weakness, from confidence to confusion, not because his environment changed, but because his thoughts did. The world can remain the same, but your interpretation of it can rise or fall based on the quality of thought you allow. If you do not seize the reins of your own mind, something else, fear, resentment, laziness, and those forces are not builders of greatness. That's why you must command the first thought of the morning and the final one before you sleep. These are not just passing ideas. They are the sentries of your mindset. If you wake with despair, your day begins in darkness. If you sleep with resentment, your dreams breed unrest. Guard these thresholds. Plant strength in the morning. Sow peace at night. But what if I can't control what I think, you ask? The truth is, you may not stop every thought from arriving, but you can choose which ones to entertain. You can train your inner world like a warrior trains with his blade. Study wisdom. Meditate in silence. Reflect, write, read. Speak powerfully to yourself. Reject the thought that weakens you, because your thoughts are the lens through which you interpret everything. If the lens is cracked, every opportunity looks like a threat, every blessing like a burden. But if the lens is clean, focused, and trained on truth, then even pain becomes a teacher. Even pressure becomes a platform. Picture yourself walking through your day, and suddenly a thought whispers, "I'm not good enough." In the past, you would have submitted to that voice, but now you pause. You dispute it. You replace it. "I am capable. I am becoming." That one act, small in appearance, is revolutionary in impact, because in that moment, you are in control. Not the fear, not the past, you. But time doesn't return. Once it slips through your fingers, it is gone forever. Time is not your servant. It is your capital. It's the most valuable currency you will ever own. And like all wealth, it must be protected, multiplied, and invested. Ask any man who has built anything that lasts, a business, a legacy, a reputation, and he will tell you the same thing. I guarded my hours like treasure. I said no more than I said yes. I built my days with discipline. I did not live on accident. I lived by design. You may say, "But I'm busy." And I ask you, busy doing what? Are you busy digging for diamonds or digging ditches for other people's dreams? Are you pouring your hours into what matters or simply leaking time into the hands of others? Because not all effort is equal. You can work yourself into exhaustion and still move in circles. What matters is not how much you do, but what you choose to do. Until you begin to treat each hour as sacred, your life will remain a maze of distractions, unfinished tasks, and dreams that never take form. You cannot command how many years you will live, but you can command how deeply and deliberately you live today. That power is always yours, and it begins with clarity. You don't need to overcomplicate it. Don't bury yourself in to-do lists that only serve to make you feel busy. Begin with simplicity. Wake up and ask, what truly matters today? Who deserves your presence, your attention, your energy? Which three things, if done well, will move your future forward? Picture a man rising in the early morning, before the noise of the world begins. He opens his journal, not to list 20 scattered tasks, but to choose three vital actions, 3 pieces of work that align with his values, his purpose, his direction. And then he begins. No wandering, no giving away his focus to things that don't serve him. At the end of the day, he feels no guilt, no regret, because though he did few things, they were the right thing. Now ask yourself honestly, are you merely counting your hours, or are you making your hours count? Are you using your time to build something, or are you just filling the void? Most men live in reaction, responding to everything, choosing nothing. But the great ones, they decide. They claim their time, like warriors claim territory. If you do not assign purpose to your time, someone else will, and they will spend it for you, often for goals that do not serve your vision. Meetings, obligations, endless noise. You must learn to say no. You must learn to rule the clock, not be ruled by it. Because your time, once gone, becomes your memory. Your life is made of days, and your days are made of decisions. Guard them like gold, because they are. Speak only what serves your growth. Words shape worlds, and not in some poetic, abstract way, but in the most practical, tangible sense. Every word you speak, especially the ones spoken about yourself, plants something, a thought, a belief, a direction. When you say, "I can't," you sow a seed of hesitation. When you say, "I'm not good enough," you cultivate limitation. But when you speak strength, even when you feel weak, you begin to awaken a deeper part of yourself, a part that listens, a part that builds. You may not see it instantly, but every sentence you speak is shaping the soil of your future. Most men don't realize they are destroying their own power through casual, careless speech. It's too late for me. This is just how I am. People like me don't win. These aren't just expressions. They're affirmations. They're declarations. Spoken not once, but hundreds of times until they harden into belief, and belief becomes behavior. And behavior, repeated, becomes identity. That's why some men never change. Not because they can't, but because their words won't let them. But I'm just being realistic, you say. No, you're being trained by fear, and you're calling it realism. Realism does not mean shrinking your vision to match your current circumstances. It means recognizing where you are without giving up on where you could go. Be realistic, yes, but be realistic about your potential, not your limitation. Speak the truth, but make sure it's the highest truth, not the laziest excuse. Don't speak from the floor. Speak from the summit, even if you haven't climbed there yet. That's how men rise. To control your words is to control your direction. Begin with the voice that no one hears, the one inside your own mind. Your self-talk isn't just background noise. It's the steering wheel of your consciousness. Every day you are either talking yourself into action or out of it, into hope or out of it, into growth or into decay. Speak as if your future self is listening, because he is, and what you tell him becomes the road he walks. Imagine this. A man is struggling through a challenge. He's exhausted. The progress is slow. The path unclear. The old version of him would say, "I'm stuck. This isn't working. Why bother?" But now something in him has changed. He hears those words arise, but he replaces them. "I'm learning," he says. "I'm being sharpened." That one act, simple, silent, redirects his mind, rewires his posture, and slowly but surely reshapes his results. Ask yourself, would you speak to your child the way you speak to yourself? Would you tell your son that he's a failure, that he's late in life, that he'll never figure it out? No. You'd lift him. You'd affirm his effort. You'd remind him of what's possible. Then why treat yourself any differently? The man within you is still growing, still becoming. Speak to him with the same belief you'd give to someone you love. Words are not just air. They are instruments of creation, tools of construction, and sometimes tools of destruction. That's why silence is better than weakness. If you have nothing strong to say nothing. But when strength does speak, let it roar, let it declare, let it build a scaffolding around your vision, one sentence at a time. When you say, "I will find a way," something in you starts looking. A door cracks open. But the moment you say it's over, that same part of you stops. That's the power of the tongue. It is a builder or a barrier. So guard it. Speak only what builds. Speak only what strengthens. Speak only what serves your highest self, not your lowest mood. Declare your direction out loud daily. I will become who I was born to be. I am rising. This moment is shaping me. These are not empty words. They are codes your subconscious obeys. Your tongue holds the weight of your future, and in every hour you get to decide. Will you use it to tear down or to build? Make your words your allies, make them your weapons, and use them wisely. Because your life and the world around you is listening. Choose your circle with intention. No man rises alone. Behind every triumph is a voice that encouraged, a hand that steadied, a presence that believed, and behind every quiet failure is often a chorus of doubt, a circle of smallness, a network that drained instead of built. You must understand this deeply. The people around you are never neutral. They are either sharpening your edge or dulling your drive. They are either feeding your fire or dampening your flame. This truth is not optional. It is foundational. If your inner world is built by thought, then your outer world is shaped by those you allow into it. Surround yourself with complainers, and you will find complaint slipping into your own speech. Walk daily with the small-minded, and slowly you'll begin folding your ambition to match their comfort. It won't happen all at once. It will happen subtly. A joke here, a discouraging word there, the casual talk that normalizes mediocrity, the quiet pressure to stay small so others won't feel uncomfortable. That is why you must choose your circle with the same intensity that you choose your thoughts. If a man can ruin his life with the wrong mindset, he can also ruin it with the wrong company. You cannot always control who is in your home, your office, your neighborhood, but you can absolutely control who shapes your mindset, who earns your trust, who shares your space of vulnerability and vision. You may ask, but what if I'm surrounded by negativity? And I say, It's time to build boundaries. Being around negative people does not mean you must absorb their mindset. You don't have to absorb what you hear. You don't have to participate in what poisons. Every man owes the world kindness. But you owe your future more than just kindness. You owe it protection. Protect your energy. Protect your vision. Be polite, but be precise. Engage without entangling. Listen without surrendering. And beyond protection, there is a deeper task. Build a better circle. Find those who think boldly, who speak with purpose, who challenge you to stretch your limits. Those rare souls who don't mock growth, but mirror it. The ones who, when you say a goal, don't flinch, but lean in. These are not just friends. They are amplifiers. They multiply your mission even when you're silent. They see your next level even when you're stuck at the current one. Imagine this. Once a week, you sit with two men. No gossip, no empty noise, just three minds locked in on growth. You speak your goals out loud. You hold one another accountable. You dissect your progress, your habits, your vision, and then you part ways. Sharper, bolder. Over time, this becomes a rhythm. And in that rhythm, something shifts. You think clearer. You act faster. You no longer fear the big idea because you are no longer alone in it. That is the power of alignment. That is the force of iron sharpening iron. So pause and ask yourself, who in your life sharpens you? Who lifts your thinking, your standards, your speech? Who do you become when you're around them? And just as importantly, who do you become when you leave? These are not small questions. These are the questions that define your trajectory. Loyalty is a noble thing. But when loyalty turns into self-betrayal, it becomes a trap. There is no honor in staying loyal to people who stunt your growth, who laugh at your dreams, who do not want to see you rise unless they rise first. You were not born to carry dead weight. You were born to build, and to build, you need hands that help. The right circle isn't always the loudest in the room. They aren't the ones seeking attention or applause, but they are the strongest. They move in truth. They speak with clarity. They see through fear. And if you cannot find such a circle, build it. Be the man who sets the tone, who gathers others not around entertainment, but around elevation. One man with a vision can lift a room, but a table full of visionaries, they can change the world. Choose your circle the way a king chooses his counsel, not by comfort, but by alignment. Your life will reflect the quality of the minds you keep around you, so choose wisely. Your future depends on it. Let go of what you can't control. The man who tries to control everything ends up controlling nothing. He clings to outcomes, monitors the moods of others, obsesses over how things should go, and lives in a state of mental siege. Every deviation from his plan feels like betrayal. Every delay feels like defeat. And every moment he cannot control becomes a threat to his sense of identity. He wants certainty in a world made of wind. He wants guarantees in a life built on motion. And so he tightens his grip, thinking it will keep things from falling apart. But the opposite happens. He falls apart instead. You were not made to carry the weight of everything. You were made to carry what is yours. And carry it well. Your thoughts, your words, your effort, your reactions. That is your domain. That is your responsibility. That is your power. But the moment you step outside that realm and begin trying to control what is not yours, people's approval, the pace of life, the opinions of strangers, the twists of fate, you forfeit your peace and you forfeit your power. The irony is this: the tighter you grip what isn't yours to hold, the more it slips. And the looser your grip becomes on your own choices, the more life begins to drift, scatter, and spiral. When you obsess over things outside your command, your attention becomes diluted. Your energy spreads thin. You become reactive instead of proactive, and the very stability you crave becomes impossible to create. You might say, "But I need this to work out." Of course you do. It's human to want success, harmony, progress, but must it break your spirit if it doesn't? Must it shatter you if the outcome strays from the plan? There's a line between determination and desperation, between vision and control. You must learn the sacred art of surrender, not as weakness, not as giving up, but as giving back what was never yours to begin with. Surrender is not silence. It is not apathy. It is clarity. It is choosing to place your effort in the fire, but not demand that the flame burn your way. It is showing up fully, acting with integrity, speaking with courage, and then releasing the outcome. It is detaching from the results and reattaching to the process, because that's where your strength lives. Release the outcome. Focus on the effort. Release the reaction of others. Focus on your response. Release the noise. Focus on the signal. The more you return to this rhythm, the more your life aligns with inner peace. Not because everything goes your way, but because you go your way, regardless of how things unfold. Picture this. A man works tirelessly on a dream. He gives it his all. He prepares, he prays, he puts every ounce of honest labor into it, but the result? It disappoints. The outcome slips from his grasp, but instead of spiraling into bitterness, he exhales. He steadies himself, and he says, I did what I could, and I will do it again better. That night, he sleeps soundly, no regrets gnawing at his mind, no shame poisoning his heart. And the next morning, he rises stronger. He refines his approach. He tries again. That man doesn't just survive, he wins. Not because he controlled the world, but because he mastered himself. Now ask yourself, how much of your suffering comes from trying to control what's uncontrollable? How many days have you ruined chasing the approval of someone who will never see your worth? How many nights have you lost worrying about futures that never came? How many dreams have you delayed by obsessing over perfect conditions? What would happen if you let go of what isn't yours? Let go of the opinions that were never yours to control. Let go of the past mistakes that you've already learned from. Let go of the imagined futures that exist only as shadows in your mind, and instead reclaim what is yours, your effort, your integrity, your attention. Watch how quickly life begins to shift. Peace does not come from fixing everything. Peace comes from knowing what you're meant to fix and leaving the rest. Some battles are not yours. Some storms are not meant to be calmed by your hand. But your discipline, your courage,